All right, we are live. So, welcome, Jeff Evely. I'm very happy to see you again. This is Jeff Evely 2.0.
Why 2.0?
Because I had you on once. So, and now you have the big beard.
Oh, it's a mane with that.
Yeah, I put in a request to for the shave. So I feel it has a jihadi vibe.
Denied. No. It's a war
Like,
beard. We grow beards when we go to war too. Well, I didn't because I was on
it's
base
like, wouldn't you
in
be too hot?
uh I mean, I wouldn't know because in my job I had to shave every day that I worked, and I worked
Yeah,
every
yeah,
single
yeah.
day that I was in Afghanistan. So that, and when I came back to Canada, that's when I went to the doctor and said I would like a beard chit now. Like, my face is destroyed because they made me shave every single day,
Oh,
and it
no.
left me wondering, like, why are we even doing this? If and the argument has always been about like gas masks and forming a proper seal with the gas
Oh,
mask.
okay.
But
I get it
I
for
don't.
pilots.
Yeah, and sailors, because of the firefighting stuff. Your firefighting gear isn't going to make a proper seal and stuff like that. So I can see that. But when you're talking about gas masks, like, there's a state of readiness. We use what they call a MOP system, and I was like, if I ever go above MOP 0 in my entire career, where I actually have to carry my gas mask, I will gladly shave. Like, you go get your gas mask and you shave while you're getting it, and then that's MOP 1. But this idea that I had to do it every single day that I was in Afghanistan, when there wasn't any NBCD threat in Afghanistan, it's pretty clearly just kind of a relic of,
Procedural. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So how have you been? You've been busy.
I've been extremely busy. I'm organizing an event in Ottawa for the 5th of May called Mayday, Kids in Crisis. The goal is to end childhood transition in Canada. And we have a Parliamentary press gallery at 10:30 in the morning. And then we're doing a protest on the Hill, a rally at 1 p.m. And then 6 p.m. we're doing town hall, which is going to be at Bikers Church. I'm announcing that tonight, something like that, because we had kept the location secret until now, but we would like to open it up so we can let more people in. And I think I don't want to jinx it, but just delaying the release of the location, I think, mitigates whatever threat of disruptors we were looking at. For the most part, it's probably enough at this stage. So we're going to publicize the venue. It's the Bikers Church down in Vanier, and it's really great.
The 6 p.m.
The 6 p.m. Town hall, and we got a great lineup of speakers there too.
Do you have press lined up? I'm unable to attend, and I'm disappointed. But do you have people covering it?
Yeah, we do. And in fact, we even have Rare Foundation's going to be doing a documentary on the day. So they have
Amazing.
a team of cameramen that are going to follow us around from start to finish. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited to be getting it off the ground.
I am a friend of Rare. I've published investigative reports for Rare.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like long reports. Like like ones that took each one took about a week. One took actually closer to a week and a half.
Yeah.
Of like writing and researching, like 12 to 14 hours a day, and travel and coverage. So yeah. I'm a friend, and they are not afraid to tell the truth. Amy Mack is like instrumental in the shining a light on Sharia in the U.S. and
Right.
the Sharia caucus is, I'd say, her doing.
You mean it like the label Sharia caucus?
Yeah, they're a group who are trying to ban Sharia, and she's very strong on that issue. So you're in good hands with Rare.
Good. Yeah, I believe I am, and I know Vlad T. He's done
He's great.
He's awesome. Yeah, and I think the first interview I ever really did was with Vlad, and
Really?
it was while I was it was while I was still banned from Ottawa after the convoy.
Okay.
Yeah, and we did it from the Gatineau side of the river with the Parliament in the background. Yeah, really good.
When did that end? Your
When
ban?
was I after my convoy trial? So that would have been August of 2024. I was allowed back.
Okay. I can't
So I'm.
remember when I met you, like what, because we've met in real life, but I don't remember when.
It would have
If it was,
been.
you were banned still.
Yeah, I think was I still banned? I might have been on my way to Ottawa for
Okay.
the trial.
Oh, that's it. Yep, that's exactly
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah.
You're
And
on your way
so
back, I think.
it was this crazy situation where I couldn't fly to Ottawa because I would have had to have landed in Ottawa, and I was banned from Ottawa, so I couldn't land in Ottawa. So I drove to Ottawa to go to my trial in Ottawa, so I would not go to jail in Ottawa. It's just beyond. And I am potentially the only Canadian war veteran in history to have been banned from the National War Monument for 2.5 years
There's still time for
for another war or convoy.
another veteran to be banned by the kooks in Ottawa for some reason or another.
Yeah, for blaspheming their woke dogma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially what we had was a bunch of witch trials, and I hear the same thing.
Yeah.
I was talking to Tamara and Chris the other night. I was on their podcast
Good.
on Friday,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean, we all came away from the same having gotten the same sense of what's really going on in Ottawa. I said right off the bat, I would like a change of venue. I don't expect that I can get a fair trial in Ottawa proper, but they didn't go for that. So we were all tried right there in the heart of wokeness, and I came away from it like, okay, we did the whole here's what happened, and here's what my rights are, and
What were the actual charges? Mischief for you?
yeah, mischief
Okay.
and obstructing,
Okay. Obstructing
and
who? The
the
police?
police, yeah,
Okay.
because when they told me to stop, I ran, and the reason that I did all of that, the reason why I went right past the police barricades on my way to the War Monument to cover my 4 a.m. sentry duty, was because, well, when I went to basic training, I was taught that I had a duty to defy illegal orders. And then, of course, the question that always comes up is, well, how am I going to know if the order is illegal? And the answer is you use your own judgment.
You know
And
when you know.
yeah, and then you'll go in front of a judge. And if you're wrong, you'll be charged under the Code of Service Discipline. But if you're right, then good job, because this is the only thing that separates us from Nazis, is that we impose this kind of an obligation on our young people. And so that was the spirit in which I defied the police's orders to stop. And, you know, I went down gracefully. That's not what they said at trial, but they're liars. And
What did they say?
one of the guys said that he bear hugged and body slammed me. It's like, okay, Tubby, like, you know, it was unbelievable. Like I was like, no, there's no way this fat guy just body slammed me. And we had three cops come in, and each one of them told a different story. Like the details were all different, but they all agreed that I had to be taken down violently. And I was like, no, I put
You're
my
so
hands up.
dangerous. You're a threat to all Canadians.
Yeah, wearing my war medals on the way to the War Monument. But yeah, we all kind of came away from it. It was sort of like my thinking at the time when I defied their orders was these orders are illegal. This Emergency Measures Act was invoked illegally, and so go ahead and arrest me so I can get in front of a judge and stand on my rights. And then what they ended up doing is they did a bait and switch and said, oh, no, we didn't set up all those barricades because of the Emergency Measures Act. We did that under our regular common law authority. It's called Ancillary Powers Doctrine. And I was like, no, you didn't. You had police coming in from all over the country because that Emergency Measures Act was invoked.
It's so unjust. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Do you know? Are you familiar with the term anarcho tyranny?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what I find is the most accurate description for people who don't know. You can fill in the blanks I miss on this. Anarcho-tyranny is when the law-abiding are punished to the full extent of the law, and dangerous criminals get off. And that's, I think, a very accurate description of what we're living through right now. Like, enemies of the state, basically, are
Yes.
punished like patriots to the full extent of the law.
Yeah. And I think it was Solzhenitsyn said something like a communist system can be recognized by the fact that it ignores criminals and criminalizes dissent, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that the bail system that we have right now is also fit for that purpose. The catch and release approach to bail is fit for that purpose. The mass immigration is fit for that purpose, especially when they're letting in like 18,000 convicted criminals from India that we know of. Jihadis returning from the Islamic State after that collapsed are being let back in. So I think you're bang on in saying that anarcho-tyranny is definitely part of the strategy, and it seems to be the case that the intention is to drive all of this additional crime and say, oh, there's all these threats that we need to deal with, so now we need to strip your rights away.
Yeah, because I was arrested as well. I was arrested for journalism a year ago, and was very violent. I was violently assaulted prior to actually being placed under arrest, which I don't think is legal, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So
you haven't
I wasn't
been
even. My trial is in December.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a scheduled trial date. So we'll see.
You're on trial for journalism?
I'm on trial. I'm on trial. As anybody who's seen it, and not everybody has, but it was bad. Like, I ended up with a mild traumatic brain injury and other injuries. I was charged with assaulting the police officer who did that to me, and with obstruction, which is their catch-all for literally everybody. They just always throw that in, obstruction, even though I was following all of the directives.
Then you cracked ribs or something in that takedown, didn't you? That incident?
No. But I was honestly very surprised that my arm and shoulder were not broken or dislocated. But I have hypermobility in my joints. But I was still quite injured by that. But I was like, you can hear in the video, I'm saying, like, you're going to break my arm. Very calm, like, you're going to break my arm. You're going to break my shoulder. Like, you've got to stop. And they just kept wailing on me. Like, they were not putting my hands in handcuffs. They were driving my arms upward in a very painful way. So, yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
When I was arrested in Ottawa, now, like I said, all three officers told a different story, and every one of them was a fishtail about how they did some masterful jujitsu in my takedown or something. But this is how good they are at jujitsu. I put my hands up and I went down like this, just as they were on me, as they were just about to put their hands on me. I was going down like this, and I went down to the ground with them kind of hands out, not really sure what to do. And I was on the ground face down like this, and the guy was going to put the cuffs on me. He was trying to bend my arm this way to put it behind my back. I was like, you're going to separate my shoulder. Look, it goes thumb down this way. Here you go. And so, like, it really, just the level of professionalism in the police forces, I don't think has ever been so abysmal.
I have such limited experience of ever having a run-in with the law that I was completely traumatized by what happened. Like, I'm a law-abiding person. My exposure to law enforcement has been minimal my entire life, aside from a very positive, like, one of my uncles was a police officer. So I had, if anything, like, very strong pro-policing attitudes before I was beaten up publicly, while people yelled Allahu Akbar as I was dragged away.
Yeah.
So
That's
that changes a
well,
person, you know?
well, and I think like betrayal trauma is something that's only now being studied. There is, I think, an
Okay.
element.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Well, I have because I was in the military for 20 years. And so there's a lot of talk about moral injury in these kinds of spheres right now. And one of the things that really leads to that moral injury is the betrayal trauma, the trauma of being betrayed by the people you trust. And I was always,
I mean, that makes sense to me because it was, I mean, I expected, like, I understood after I was, you know, beaten up that I was traumatized. Like, I was sweating profusely for days. It was really, I couldn't sleep. Like, I was very, very uncomfortable. So I was like, okay, I probably have some PTSD, but that makes sense. Like, the added layer of, like, it's not a random attack by thugs, right? It's like
no,
people that you should be safe around.
yeah, people are supposed to protect you. And what do they do? Opposite.
Yeah. I'm not going to hijack your, like, this is about you, but I do want to play this because it's kind of pertains to, 1 second here. I'm going to put this up. I'm like notoriously bad of playing it and thinking other people can see what they can't see. But this was on Wednesday.
I can't film them.
So I'm trying to report. It was Israel Independence Day, and then this is Montreal for Palestine, which are a pro-Hamas organization. And then there was also an Iranian counter-protest against the pro-Hamas.
I'm provoking now.
Yeah. Now you're making a scene.
I'm making a scene. I'm filming. I'm standing here silently.
First of all, it's a sidewalk. You have to walk.
Pardon?
It's a sidewalk. You have to walk.
I don't know. Can you hear it?
He's saying something about it's a sidewalk after all.
He said you're provoking them, and it's a sidewalk you have to walk.
I have to walk on a sidewalk?
Just go on the other side. If you want to film them, just go on the other side.
I'm media. I'm trying to report on what's happening on both sides. I'm not part of either protest.
Well, just go on the other side.
So there was that, and then I'll look for the other video, but I was threatened with arrest if I kept doing my job. Ultimately was threatened with arrest. And so obviously, okay, here's a 1 second. It's easy to find actually. This was the second video. So he's saying in French, and I'm just going to explain something. There's a reason why people with Israeli flags can't stay. And I said, well, I'm not like, I was obviously a journalist. Like I had my lanyard, I had my ID, you know, I obviously was not part of a Israel Independence Day rally or the Iranians. Then he told me to put my phone down, which I don't have to do.
No.
I said, I'm filming, I'm reporting. He said, you're going to come with me and I'm going to explain it to you. And I said, I'm not part of either. Like, I'm working.
Any protest on media.
Yes, but right now you're instigating.
He said, you're instigating. Right now, you're instigating.
Silent, yeah, it's on me.
Then he's saying, where's your journalist card? So I showed it to him, and then he was like, no, I can't see it. Where is it? Even though he could definitely see it.
Well, right now you're instigating. I don't know what video
I'm standing silently. How could I be instigating when I'm...
He said, you're going in their faces and you're filming them. I was standing literally silently. Like, I wasn't moving. They're all approaching me. It's all on film. But anyway.
Literally standing
You're causing animosity.
It's all
You're causing animosity. This is Officer Nashed.
on film. I am not approaching anybody.
We're going to come across the street for now and see if there's less noise.
Standing silently doing my job is not causing animosity. You're not doing your job. That's the difference.
Yeah.
100%.
But
Well,
that's it. Like, it's basically like, do I want to be arrested again? So no, the answer is no, I don't. But it's like, I can't, they won't let me do my job, you know?
Well, and therein lies the betrayal. Is these are the people who are charged with protecting us and our rights, and what are they doing? I mean, but stripping them away. This is a freedom of the press issue, and the police should protect the press and and protect this pillar of democracy, which is the freedom of the press. But instead, they side with the thugs and shut you down. Like, it's the opposite of what they're supposed to do. And it's Orwell's paradigm. We live in opposite land where the Ministry of Truth is actually the Ministry of Propaganda and lies. But it's across the board. I mean, I'm doing this event now because our children's hospitals, who are charged with promoting the health of our children, are destroying the health of our children left, right, and center, and some of the most egregious abuse that I think we've ever seen in human history. So again, like it's just this really profound betrayal on the part of our institutions across the board.
Yeah, it's you have a very long video. I see it's 17 minutes, but I'm wondering if I should play parts of it.
Go for it.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, just a few. Yeah. They don't have to play 17 minutes.
Okay. So you can tell me, here we go. So why don't you set it up for people? Do you want me to go back to the very beginning, or?
No, you can actually skip ahead, and there's gold pretty much all the way through. So it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Maybe right there is fine. But what's happening here is, you see, my daughter, I got to back this up a little bit. Like when she was 14, I took her to the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario Mental Health Clinic, the one at, I think it's 401 Smythe Road in Ottawa. And I wanted her to be seen for depression. And I thought that she maybe had some issues that were lingering from her mother and I's separation a few years prior. Perhaps like she always seemed like she was self-conscious about her body and things like that. So
as many 14-year-olds are. Of
course. And so I took her to the adolescent mental health clinic to help her manage some of that. And they referred her to the gender clinic without my knowledge. So the game that she was playing, I went in for the first couple of appointments to help with the assessment and stuff like that. And then she said, okay, I want my privacy and I just kind of want to handle this myself. And I was like, yeah, sure. I respect your autonomy and so on and so forth. So I'll just go for a coffee. I'll drive you and I'll go.
How long ago was this? Just so people have an idea of the timeline, because I think people are a lot more aware now of what's going on.
This would have been about 2017, I think.
Okay.
About 2016, maybe.
Like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago. Yeah. So a lot of people weren't aware of the full extent of what was happening yet.
No. And I was kind of ahead of the curve on this. I was sort of down the cultural Marxism rabbit hole in the early and mid 2000s. And I came to become familiar with the kind of burgeoning trans movement. And I can remember I was also in a lot of these like atheist spaces, the new atheist movement and stuff like that. And I can remember people showing up around 2010, 2011 to some of these atheist conferences in California and lecturing everybody about how they're supposed to behave toward trans people. And very prominent YouTubers were like, I've never even met a trans person. What are these people talking about? And I was like, oh, you guys don't know what's coming. This is going to be bad. So I was that vigilant about this already. And but the extent of it was just beyond. So I, after about 3 appointments of her attending on her own and me just grabbing a coffee, I said, okay, I'm going to come in for a follow-up. And she's like, why? And I said, well, I just want to check with your doctors and make sure like there's no red flags or anything. And she's just, well, they're not going to tell you what we're talking about. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I should at least show my face in there in case there's any concerns that they want to raise with me. So I followed her into the hospital, and she took me to a completely different section. And I was like, what is going on here? And where did she take me? About the adolescent gender clinic. And the pit of my stomach just sank. I was like, oh my God, what has been going on? Have they been giving her hormones without me knowing? Like, what have they done to her? But at that stage, it was still nothing. It was just a social worker. And I went in to speak with the social worker that she'd been talking to after her appointment. His name was Sebastian. They never seemed to want to give their last names. I know he was visually impaired, and he worked at the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario on Smythe Road in Ottawa. And, it was just a stonewall. Like they, almost like, what are you bothering me for? And I was like, well, where is this going? What is the issue? And so I would ask about these referrals, because he's just a social worker. He can't give her any drugs, but he's about to refer her to Dr. Stephen Fetter, the psychiatrist there. And that's when things really start to kick in. Like if the psychiatrist signs off on it, then you're going to the endocrinologist next. So it was an absolute nightmare. Eventually we stopped going to these appointments. I was fully aware of things like Child Protective Services getting involved in situations like this. I always refused to use her pronouns. I always, I was drawing the line at medicalization. Obviously, I tried to show her that I was reasonable and things like that. That was kind of the whole point, is that I'm reasonable. You can come to me and you can present me with an argument. If you think I'm being unreasonable, then by all means make your case, but it has to be logical. It has to be dispassionate. That was the hard boundary that I always had with the kids, but this was the boundary that you needed to push on. So this went on for a little while. We ended up missing one of the appointments because we were late and stuck in traffic. And then they would send letters to the house that I threw in the garbage. And so we went for about a year and a half without her having any contact with these people. And she needed braces. So I went to Iraq, and I was a single dad, by the way. I was a single dad for the last 10 years of my career, my military career. And, so I went to Iraq to pay for her braces. My retired mother came and stayed with the kids for the rest of the school year. And I got a call, redeployed to another location in Iraq. And my mother was messaging me on Messenger and saying, like, the people at CHIO called her phone directly. So I was like, what the hell?
CHIO, the Children's Hospital.
Yeah, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario.
Okay.
And I called her, and my mother's crying, and she's, when I got to location, I could get to a phone, my mother's crying, and she's like, I just knew she was going to do something like this while I was here. And I was like, it's not even her. It's these monsters at the hospital who won't leave her alone. And what happened was, soon after I deployed, she celebrated her 16th birthday. So that's the legal age of consent. Now they start calling her phone directly, even though they hadn't seen her in over a year. Telling her to come on in for her sex change because she doesn't need daddy's permission anymore now that she's 16. So I had to take leave from Iraq to come and deal with that. And it was basically like I was sneaking out of country, because it's not like I could tell the chain of command that I had an issue at home. As soon as if you have a problem, then you become the problem in the eyes of the chain of command. So I had to kind of keep it all hush hush and go and deal with this. And I went to the appointment with Dr. Stephen Fetter. He was jubilant. He couldn't wait to start giving her the puberty blockers. He thought that I was going to be as excited as he was about.
They're very evil people.
Yeah, it was sick. And he said everything that you guys have heard about, we're just going to hit the pause button on the puberty, and so that they don't continue to develop. And I was like, you're going to arrest my daughter's development. That's what you're saying. And he was like, well, we take them off them, and then they just continue to develop. And I was like, how do you know that? It was just like, well, isn't it obvious? And I was like, no, it's not. How do you know that? And he was talking about like trans this and gender dysphoria that. And I was like, look, are we talking about a psychiatric condition known as gender dysphoria? Or are you saying that my daughter actually is a male in a female body? And he's like, well, it's the latter. And I was, well, I want a second opinion on that. So when you ask for a second opinion from CHEO, you will get a referral to CHEO for your second opinion. And the video that you're showing right now is actually the second opinion. I obviously regret not having recorded the first appointment, but I guess it just didn't occur to me, I'm afraid. And
Well, we're not always acting as though everything needs to be used as evidence. But at this point, I guess people need to. Like, it's
always be recording. So this was in 2019. This was, I came back in April, I think, to deal with this. So this would have been about April 2019.
okay. Tell me when to pause and stuff, okay?
Sure.
Dr. Fetter communicate? Like, how was it left with Dr. Fetter?
Nothing. I mean, I didn't really get anything.
Do you have questions for me or things you want to ask to help this process?
What process?
Like, I'm wondering if there's kind of things I can try to answer for you that would help, or if there's anything you want to know that I can.
Well, I mean, I had a conversation with Dr. Fetter where, you know, basically I said, because he took me in and he kind of started offering the hormone therapy right off the bat.
Okay.
And they were talking about puberty blockers and maybe it wouldn't be testosterone for a while and stuff like this. And I said, what I said to him was that I would like to know how it is that he was able to determine that she was in fact trans, and it kind of turned into this more epistemological kind of discussion where I asked him to define what trans was. First of all, I said, well, and I mean, I understand.
I just want to point out that, you see, we're talking about the appointment that I just had with Dr. Fetter, and this is the second opinion. Dr. Fetter offered hormone therapy on the first appointment, the very first time that he ever met my daughter. He was already pushing the puberty blockers. But go ahead, continue.
It's nuts.
And that, you know, there's sort of a cultural, political rally around the issue right now and all this, and I'm not.
Do you talk about gender dysphoria?
Yeah, he talks about gender dysphoria, and he said, you know, it's kind of been renamed. You know, it was a gender identity disorder. And I'm aware of all this, and I'm aware of the fact that the DSM-5 changed the name. I'm not aware of why they did that. I think it may have been due to some more like cultural and political pressures, more so than anything. You know, and Dr. Fetter tried to explain it. He said, well, you know, once upon a time, homophilia was a thing in the DSM, and now we call it homosexuality. Those two things are not really in the same category. You know, like to say that I prefer the company of men, I mean, that's just a preference when you boil it right down. And he seemed to react like, well, no, it's not a choice. It's not. I know it's not a choice. Like preferences are not choices. It's, you know, I didn't choose to prefer pizza over Brussels sprouts. I happen to prefer pizza, like, and it's fine. Like, there's no harm in having a sexual preference. But when you're talking about the trans issue, you're making some like existential claims. I'm just kind of, you know, I'm trying to work all this out, and I've never been able to find like the scientific evidence for what it is that we're talking about. This is a natural phenomenon that exists in the world. I'm like, well, how do we know that? You know. And information on that.
Well, when I think about how we know it is there's a population of people who did it.
So we have entire support societies out there for victims of alien abduction. That doesn't mean that alien abduction is a real thing, but that doesn't mean that I have to accept that it would be logical for me to accept this claim of alien abduction. So I think like that's what I see is problematic there. But please go on if you have anything else.
I mean, I don't have a lot because generally it's more just the understanding that teenagers in particular, like it's a time of a lot of change, sure, as you probably remember from being a teen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also like a really formative time of identity development. Yeah. So even like, you know, one of the other things that's coming up is people saying like, well, I didn't see any evidence of this before puberty, right? And to me, there's kind of two subsets of gender dysphoria that can present. There's childhood onset where we saw this from a really young age, and then there's the puberty onset where like once the you know, especially for females, when the period starts, or there starts to be changes, or in males too, like that they start to really be uncomfortable in their body, right? And to me, like I see the spectrum of like most teenagers when I talk to them about puberty, they're not thrilled, right? Puberty is not the funnest process to go through, but the youth that I see who are more gender dysphoric, there's it's a level up. It's not just I don't like my period and I wish I had a larger or smaller chest, but it's more just like, oh, this like really makes me feel significant discomfort in my body. And the other thing that tends to happen is people who are really feeling frustrated will start to get to a place where they feel quite hopeless, that they're not really, they're living an inauthentic self, and then they become more suicidal. So, I mean, that is something that there's pretty clear research evidence of that, but like whether they're sexuality questioning or gender questioning, there's a much higher rate of attempted suicide or completed suicide. And when we support people to live authentically, those rates go down. So if we're just looking at livelihood, I mean, people tend to do better when they're supported as to where they identify. That's one thing. I'm happy to.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that, this is just based on my research. I don't have anybody to answer these questions, and I'm not an expert. But my understanding is that, Johns Hopkins University doesn't do the transition surgery anymore because they found that there was no difference in the suicide rates between pre-op and post-op transsexuals.
Was that with adults or with kids?
That was with adults.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that? Or, I mean, I would like to see more. This is a pretty serious.
It is, yes, it is. And what I'm generally working on is the guidelines that have been set out through the World, Association of Transgender Health, which I agree. The big question is certainty. How can I be certain, right? And I'd say I can never be certain. More along the lines of trying to explore a journey of interventions that lead to improvement or less improvement, right? And so, people oftentimes will ask, well, what if I change my mind, right? And generally, teens don't ask that, but parents ask that all the time. And I've had a couple of teens who changed their mind. And when we went back and reviewed their situation and said, is there anything you would have wanted done differently? They said no. And then I've had some teens where so usually it's going from the most reversible intervention to the most irreversible intervention. No one is going to offer surgery to someone who hasn't been on hormone treatment, because that would be negligent to kind of offer that. And reckless. So, but there's definitely, like you say, a social, political, we have research to support that when people are supported in their journey, they do better, right? So there are lots of trans folk out there who are living quietly, who are either been thrown out of their homes, have been, assaulted. Lots of different stuff can happen to people in that community, and they land in worse off positions. We're living in shelters. There's a much higher rate of trade, all that type of stuff.
I'm just going to pause it for a second, because how can there even be a comparison between a child that's kicked out of the house and a loving home where none of this incredibly damaging medical route is pursued? Obviously, a child that's made homeless by their own parents is not going to do very well in life. That's very obvious. But it's all these false equivalencies and this frou-frou, this nonsense frou-frou.
Yeah, frou-frou is an excellent way to put it, because there's no there. It's all smoke and mirrors. And he starts talking about this. And actually, the next thing I say, I'm going to spoil it for your audience here, but the next thing I say to him is, there's no danger of that in this case. My child is not going to be homeless.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like treating all parents as though they're abusers.
Yeah, you're abusers before until they know better. Until you affirm their gender, then by default you're an abuser, and that's how I was treated throughout. And stay tuned for more. This one, as I say in the post here, this was the single most cordial, friendly conversation that I had with any of these people. And what comes next when you start getting into it, it's a gradual escalation from one to the next to the next. And when you hear the way these people speak to me and the way that I'm treated and dismissed in these appointments, it'll infuriate you. It'll absolutely shock you. And I'm pretty sure I know this guy's name, but I'm not sure. That's why I'm not saying it. But the next one is going to be when I go back to Dr. Fetter, and I have 2 appointments with him. His name is Dr. Stephen Fetter, and he works at the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, Gender Clinic. And then the one after that is her name is Maria Keeley, Dr. Maria Keeley, and she has since transferred, I think, to the University of Memorial University in Newfoundland, which I believe is her alma mater. She is a sadistic harpy. Let me tell you, she is one beast of a woman, and it'll boil your blood when you hear these recordings that are coming out tomorrow and the next day. We're releasing them ahead of our event.
Oh, you haven't? It's not on this, this
No,
video. Okay.
no.
Do
This
you want
one
me
is
to play more of this video, or do you want to cut away from it?
no. We can let people find it on my X
Okay.
profile if you want. That's fine.
Okay.
We don't have to play too much of it. But in this same video.
It's very frustrating to me to listen to someone who doesn't know your child kind of condescend to you in this sing-songy voice when he's talking about putting your daughter on a path, that leads to irreversible harms.
Well, and like I said, like that guy was actually the most reasonable, most cordial person I dealt with throughout the entire process. So I didn't even go dig up his name, really. I'm not sure what it is. I did do a little digging, but I'm not sure what it is, so I didn't release it. But the next two, we are sure, and they're absolute monsters. This guy was actually kind of entertaining in a way to just demonstrate how oblivious some of these people are, because there's one point in that same recording where he says, well, we're talking about the definition of boy. We're talking about like how I had this conversation with my daughter and she's telling me that she's a boy in here. And I said, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, I feel like a boy in here. And I said, well, how do you know what it feels like to be a boy? You've never been a boy before. And she says, yes, I am in here. What's in here? What is a boy? And she would say, in here, it's a thing that you feel. And I was like, no, that's not a clear definition, and it's circular reasoning. And this is what I would do with my kids, is I would try to teach them logic, throughout the course of our interactions like this, because it's a constant negotiation with teenagers. And so I said, like, that's the hard boundary. If you can present me with a logical argument, I will change my mind. I'm a reasonable person, but if you're not even able to define the terms, then that's a violation of the law of identity, and you can't build a logical argument on that foundation. And then, so I'm describing. I didn't go all the way, but I was starting to describe this conversation with the doctor in that recording, the psychiatrist, and he was like, well, how would you define boy? And I said, it's an immature human male. And he was like, okay. Okay. And he said, well,
do you disagree with that? I mean,
no,
these are medical terms. Like
it's right out of the dictionary. He couldn't disagree with it. And he was shocked. He was flabbergasted.
That you could define what a boy was?
Yes, because he would go on like, there are tomboys and there are this and there are that, and I'm like, yeah, you're talking about personalities though. You're not talking about gender. You're talking about a personality. And he would say, well, no, gender is, it's kind of like the social construct and there's a spectrum and all this stuff. And I was like, well, where is the spectrum when I go to the hardware store? Because if I go to the plumbing aisle, I need to know if I'm buying a male or a female part. And if I'm going to the electrical aisle, I need to know if I'm getting a male or a female connector. There's another part in the conversation where he asked me to define gender. And I was like, well, gender is a term that describes a coupling relationship wherein the male component is partially inserted into the female component to form the couple. That's what gender means. And sex is the biological manifestation of gender for the purpose of reproduction. They mean the same thing in the human species. They absolutely do. It's just that we started saying gender as a polite word for sex somewhere around the 90s when Judith Butler was doing her dissertation on how gender is performative. And that's when it kind of took on this new meaning for the left. And now, we're all expected to conform to this new reality. But gender has never meant anything more than a coupling relationship.
I just don't. So I loved fashion when I was little, and I loved getting really dressed up. But it was also the time when I grew up. It was also like the time of corduroy. There's a lot of corduroy and like brown and whatever. Yeah. And I was also really, really sporty. So I did a ton of sports. And I also was really girly at times. And nobody ever questioned this. No. It's just fine. It was fine to be like a really good athlete
Yeah.
and, to be able to center flip a canoe. Nobody was trying to make me into a man. Like I don't understand any of this. I can drive stick, fly a
Yeah.
plane. I can do a lot of like male oriented things or things in which males, excel at.
Yeah.
And nobody ever tried to make me into a boy because I could put chains on tires. Like the whole thing is grotesque.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And our generation was the first generation really to have like female hockey players, for example. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we,
Actually, the one person I know that was trans identifying in my early 20s played hockey on the boys' team
oh
in
wow,
high school because there was no girls' team.
right, yeah. But
We
yeah,
figure skated. I figure skated. That's what the girls did. But I knew how to skate like with hockey skates, but I also knew how to figure skate with the pick on the end.
I don't. I don't know how to skate with the pick on the end.
No, but you know how to hockey, like with hockey skates. It's a lot easier with hockey skates. Like as soon as
Yeah.
I could switch, I did because it's much easier.
Yeah, yeah. I believe it. And we had a hockey team in high school for the girls. We had enough to make a team.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. We had a lot of girl hockey players. And I remember there was one star athlete that I've known since primary school, and she's a PhD in kinesiology now, like just a star athlete her whole life, and she went on to have a great career like that. But now it's really it's so inverted because it's like we told young girls, girl power, and you can do anything that a boy can do, and you can be whatever you want in life. And now we're telling them, if you don't conform rigidly to a traditional gender stereotype, then there is something very wrong with you, and you need a radical medical intervention right now, not later, right frickin' now. And just with my daughter's situation, it's like I said, like when she was 14, they were telling me that if we don't do this right now, if we don't start blocking her puberty, then she's going to commit suicide. And then we went a year and a half without hearing from them. And then the first appointment I have with this psychiatrist, he's saying, yeah, we got to block her puberty or she's going to commit suicide. And I was like, I would like a second opinion on that. And it was actually that doctor in that recording who at least had the decency to ask, like, how do you want to handle this? Because I was going back to Iraq. I was just on leave from Iraq. So I had to leave that and go back to...
How did they explain the fact that there was no suicidal ideation and no suicide attempts in the year and a half in which she was left alone?
Exactly. There is no explanation for that. And the last...
What a thing to say. What a thing to say. Like, I don't react because I've heard this from parents so many times. But really, truly, what a disgusting thing to say to somebody, to threaten a parent that way.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not only threatening us that way, but you see, because they really believe it, it doesn't come from anywhere. It's just something they say. It's not reflected in the data anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just something to say. But because they believe it, they look at you like you would rather your son or daughter die than be gay. Because they make this false equivalency between being trans and being gay. But as I discussed, like even in that video you were just showing, I was like, well, yeah, we took homophilia out of the DSM because we were intervening medically, and the outcomes for people with whom we intervene medically turned out to be way worse than just letting them live a gay lifestyle. So why don't we
them alone? Yeah,
leave them alone? Exactly. Now we leave gays alone. Why don't we just leave what you were calling trans kids alone? And he's talking about adolescent onset dysphoria, like it's puberty. That's what they're describing. It's puberty. Yeah. And I'll pile on to the point that you just made. Like, how do they explain that she didn't commit suicide in the year and a half that they didn't have contact with her? Well, after they started engaging in now, first of all, that doctor that I was just talking to had the courtesy to ask me, how do you want us to deal with this situation while you're in Iraq? And I said, I want to be here for appointments. So I don't want you guys having any contact with her while I'm gone. And he agreed to that. And they didn't, surprisingly. And then when I get back, it's like, oh, now, she's going to commit suicide like tomorrow if we don't do this now. And I was like, well, she's fine. This has been going on for a few years now, and she's been fine. And they're saying like she's a cutter and all this stuff. And I was like, no, she's not. And they said, they're like, what do you mean she's not? And I was like, I've never seen any evidence of what you guys are talking about.
But
Like, I
even
understand.
then, I know somebody who was, and she stopped eventually. It wasn't good, but like a lot of this is happening to kids who have other issues that need to be dealt with during adolescence, and their hormones are, raging, and they don't have enough life experience or tools yet to cope with whatever's upsetting them.
Yeah.
And they need support in learning how to deal with their strong feelings. They don't
Yeah.
need to be drugged and
Exactly. And every appointment I went to, I was like, why don't you just treat the depression? Why don't you explore the possibility of comorbidities? And they were like, no, there's none of that. She's just trans. And the last appointment that I had, like, it was vicious. They left the room. And this was the endocrinologist. This will be coming out in a couple of days, but she fed me so much BS, and I would be like, yeah, that's not what I've been reading. I've been reading that the suicide rate is either unchanged or goes up post-transition. And she'd be like, oh, where are you reading that at? A couple different studies. And she'd be like, well, I'd like to see that. And I was like, okay, you got an email? And she said, oh, bring him in the clinic. And she was making fun of me and saying, I'll show you, and you can have all my studies, and we'll do a little swap studies. Like, she's having fun torturing me. And I did it. I showed up at the next appointment with a stack of papers like this thick. It was all tabbed, highlighted. And I was like, here's everything that I said. You want to know where it's coming from? Here you go. 88% rate of desistance by age 23. Here's one that says 93% rate of desistance by age 25. And on and on like that. They left the room. And after that, our saving grace was actually COVID. So COVID hit. And now all of a sudden, all of these teenagers who are going to commit suicide like tomorrow, if we don't start blocking their puberty and putting them on cross-sex hormones, they just shut it all down. So they were gaslighting me to tell me that this is necessary to save her life. This is life-saving surgery. And the minute COVID hit, and they said, okay, all non-life-saving stuff is on hiatus because we're here for COVID. And guess what? The adolescent gender clinic basically just shut down operations because it's not life-saving, and they know that.
So then you had a reprieve. I'm just going to read a comment. Johnny wrote, what happened with your daughter is so far beyond despicable, Jeff. We as a society failed you, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Thanks for saying that. I guess we all have a role to play, but I don't blame you personally. I blame the people in charge. This goes all the way to the top. And Mia Hughes is one of our speakers at the Mayday event, and she can tell you. Yeah, she's awesome.
She's great. I watched this discussion she had with this hulking ogre, and she's just so, calm and feminine, and the juxtaposition between the two of them was quite something to behold.
Yeah.
And this male, I'm told, has been involved in a lot that I didn't realize at the time when I saw their debate. But it's I've like my beliefs on this are so strong that I don't think that anybody should have these interventions, whether they're an adult or not. But the fact that anybody is debating and that it ever got to a place of it happening to children is so astonishing to me that it's hard for me to even comprehend that it's happening. Like it's I just don't understand it.
I mean, it's ideological, so there's not much to understand. It's incoherent, and they're not operating on the logical framework anymore. Like they're operating on an ideological framework. So in their Marxist worldview, like, it makes sense. They think that they're emancipating the oppressed, that these people, are being liberated by them. But I'm sure I don't have to tell you that it's overwhelmingly kids. Like Gen Z, I think it's about 23% of them identify as LGBT. So that's a little bit misleading, but the L, the G, the B don't really belong with the T, but it's still indicative of a much stronger trend in the youngest generation, whereas the oldest generations, like say the boomer generation, for example, they're not the oldest, but quite well known for advancing the gay rights movement and so on. And they've maintained like rock solid, never broke 3% LGBT identification. And the thing is, if this were a genuine civil rights movement where we have these people who are finally free to be their authentic selves and come out of the closet, you would think that the older people who have been suppressed the longest would represent the bulk of the people coming out of the closet. But that is not the case. The bulk of the people are much younger. It's Gen Z, which indicates a social contagion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It absolutely is. I mean, I know a lot of people. Okay. Like I'm a talker. I've gone to 2 different elementary schools, 2 different high schools, Sage Up University. I was involved in a lot of different extracurricular activities. So I like in the arts, but also sports. So I've met a lot of different types of people. I like rural people. I like urban people less and less, to be honest. But, I used to really like the arts. So the theater people. And in all of my time, I've met only 2 trans-identifying people my entire life. Like I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
So the fact that now this is suddenly, like, I know multiple parents whose children have started self-identifying this way. Like it doesn't even add up to the slightest bit of scrutiny. It's not feasible. No. It's not statistically feasible.
We wouldn't survive as a species, given just selection pressures in the ancestral environment. If, homosexuality really occurred at anything larger than a rate of 2% in the general population. Now, like, I acknowledge that's anecdotal, but there's a reason for the different genders and or sexes, and it has everything to do with survival and reproduction. Even the gender roles, it's a loose term, but the human survival strategy is essentially bifurcated along gender lines. Men are the protector, provider, hunter, warrior, and the women are nurturer, caregivers, and it makes sense. Like if you understand, basically that our children are born essentially prematurely because of the much larger heads that we have and the much more narrow birth canal relative to other primate species, where our hip posture is much different because the hip bones are underneath the pelvis, whereas on other primate species, they're more sprawling. The hip joint is on the side of the pelvis. So they give birth much more easily, and a chimpanzee can basically take a baby out of the womb and fling it onto her back, and he'll be piggybacking around, and her hands are free to climb and forage and things like that. But with the Homo sapiens species, women are completely encumbered with newborns. They're helpless for years because they're born, sort of prematurely with the smaller brains in order to survive the more narrow birth canal. But women have to in the ancestral environment, they have to be completely encumbered with newborns. And we actually have the highest male parental investment of any primate species for that reason. Women need to select for men who will stick around to do the hunting, the foraging, the protecting, this kind of thing, because she's like breastfeeding, and that's about it. When you have a brand new newborn come on the scene. So
It's the best for young kids. If there are young kids that are watching, go out and have babies.
Yeah.
There's nothing more beautiful than becoming a parent.
And you get a second childhood out of the deal. It's actually a pretty good deal. I got to go to all the best water parks, the amusement parks and the playground and stuff like that. And men tend to get interested. We're not really interested in newborns so much. Like women tend to be really interested in newborns. It's like you could take a newborn into a room full of women and they will pass it around like it's a bong. Oh, that new baby smell, taking a hit.
I love babies. I always want to be the one that's holding a baby at a get together. I'm a baby hog.
And men, it doesn't come as naturally to men. We feel like we're going to break them, but once they get a little bigger, like
I've known
we
some
want to.
dads that were like really good at putting babies to sleep when they were fussy. It's just like a really solid, nurturing vibe where the kid just feels like very calm and just can go to sleep,
Absolutely. I'm speaking in broad terms.
But I think men like doing things with kids, though. They like when they start to crawl and they're running around, and it's just like constantly managing the situation to keeping the toddler from catastrophic injury, just chasing around.
And there's like, like the WWE on the bed that dads with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The body slamming babies on the bed and stuff like that. And they love it. Like they,
that baby giggle.
Yeah.
I saw a dad jump off a 2 meter diving board with his toddler. And he was a hockey player. He's a very athletic guy. So, but the wife was like, what is, like, she's yelling. He jumped. I was like, how's this going to end? And he just before the end, the baby up. So the baby softly went in really softly and it was fine. But no mom's ever doing anything like that with it. Never. We're never doing that.
Yeah. And you see, it's the gender roles are complementary and interdependent.
I think so. And we see it certainly in my age group anyway. I don't know with young people, maybe it's not as obvious, but if there's a get together with couples with mixed, there's always at some point a separation and nobody's enforcing it. It naturally happens where the men are talking and the women are talking, and it's very nice. I like that sense of camaraderie. And I think the men like to be with the men as well, Mm-hmm. And that's okay. But it's also okay for people who don't fit into that. It doesn't mean that they need to be drugged and, have their organs chopped off.
Oh my God. How we ever
there's
got
a place for you that doesn't involve becoming a lifelong medical experiment.
Yeah.
I promise there's a place for every person. There's a place for every person.
And they do dramatically shorten their lifespans when they do that. And
with cancers and heart disease as well. It's not just the rest, right? Sorry, I'm getting upset. It upsets me. All of it upsets me.
And the suicide. Scott Nugent is our keynote speaker.
I had wondered because Scott is a detransitioner. What's Scott's story?
Scott is a trans man living with transition regret. Now Scott is actually a lesbian. Her name is Kelly. And she actually had a couple of kids and was in a lesbian relationship and decided to transition at the age of 42. Scott is now 53. 42. Yeah. Yeah, at 42. And they did the
Okay.
phalloplasty where they used the graft from the flesh of the arm. So,
Oh no. Okay.
yeah, so he wears the sleeve most of the time, but actually showed the arm during What is a Woman when he was talking to Matt Walsh.
Oh, that's how I know this person. That's how. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. That's how I know, I guess. I couldn't figure out how, if it was like maybe Jordan Peterson or.
no, it was What is a Woman.
Children are Canada's greatest treasure, the heartbeat of the nation. Their innocence, their health, and their future deserves protection. But across Canada, harmful gender ideology is putting vulnerable youth in danger through indoctrination, medicalization, and irreversible harm. We're demanding the repeal of Bills C4 and C16, the
Oh my
restoration
gosh, yes.
of parental rights, and a return to truth-driven, evidence-based care that puts children first. Canada, you have fallen behind the world in facing the tragedy of medically transitioning children. I've lived it. And for 8 years, I've been trying to fight to stop it. Join me, trans man Scott Nugent, and leading educators on May 5th at 1 p.m. on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. Stand up, Canada. Stand up for truth. Stand up for our children. Stand up to stop childhood medical transition.
Oy.
And what a powerful advocate against childhood medical transition. And we're bringing, so Scott is our keynote speaker. And as I mentioned, we have Mia Hughes, and we also have Barry Neufeld, who just got that $750,000 fine on BC.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But we have Kelly Lynn Piri, who is the founder of the D-Trans Alliance Canada, and Faith Grolou.
I don't know them. What's their
So Kelly Lynn Piri is actually another lesbian who went down the queer theory rabbit hole in the 2000s and transitioned, I think, somewhere around, like it was mid 2000s, somewhere thereabouts. But then came to realize like queer theory for what it really was, which is a culturally Marxist lie. Yeah. And sort of came away from all the resentment-based ideology and realized that, she's a woman. And it's okay to be a lesbian woman. You don't have to carve up your body and take a bunch of health-destroying, bone-destroying hormones. So she founded the D-Trans Alliance. And Faith Grolou is a young detransitioner. She's 26 years old, who went through all of this in our schooler systems, never went all the way to like full medicalization, took puberty blockers for quite a while, but eventually came out of it and is now another one of these powerful advocates. And this is the thinking really that's gone into this event is we're trying to put together a panel of experts and those with lived experience of the harms of gender ideology. So my own experience is that my daughter went through this, and I had the whole nightmare experience with the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. So I'll be talking about that. And
where is she at now? Like, are you guys speaking or?
No, she hasn't talked to me since 2023. She moved in with her mother, which kind of supports my assessment that it always had something to do with issues related to her mother and I separation that they just would not address. And she had her breast removed last fall at the age of 22. So I kept her safe as long as she was under my roof. And, I don't know that there's really much that can be done. I mean, they alienated me. They blocked me, and her mother and her, blocked me. And her mother said she would call the cops and have me arrested for PTSD if I showed up at the house. But I'm here in the town where she lives, just waiting to catch her when she falls, and figure I might as well go after the monsters who did it to her while I wait. So that's what I've been doing for a number of years, and that is the same spirit with which I'm going to Ottawa on the 5th of May for this Kids in Crisis event.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as you know, I've been dealing with it for quite a while. So, doesn't
make it easier. It just is something that you get used to.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. And I'm the guy who told the troops in my military career that the best therapy is just working hard to solve your own problems. So, I'm not going to, I haven't been one to sit around this entire time since I was medically released in 2021. When the government is bothering me, I get up and I go out and I do something about it. I do something about the things that are bothering me. And this is one of the things that bother me. This is the thing that bothers me the most, is what we're doing to kids in this country. It's the sickest thing to ever happen in Canada, and it needs to stop.
Yes, there is. I think it's been it's exhausting for people. But one thing I wanted to focus on a bit is, because it makes me happy, is the fact that you won your case.
Oh yeah, I haven't even taken any
You feel
time
like
to
that was
celebrate.
so long ago, right?
Well, I'm in a really weird timeline where the convoy feels like last week, but August, when I first went into the woods to defy the woods ban, feels like 5 years ago. So
Really?
yeah, I was viral for like a couple of months there. It was just nonstop. And
Yeah. You were the first person I interviewed. You kind of forced me to
I did.
start doing this, because I was like, no, I don't know how to do any of that. And you're like, it's fine. I'll run the live stream. Just just interview me. And I was like, okay. And so now I know how to do this because of you.
I'm a force multiplier.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'm just going to look, because it was JCCF, right?
Yeah. JCCF. Marty Moore, he was representing the administrative law case, and Alison Pajovic. I always say Pajovic, but I think it's Pajovic. She was making the charter arguments.
Okay. I found it satisfying because it's outrageous that you had to do this at all, right? It's like an assault on what's reasonable, that we would even be barred from walking in the woods by our own state. But I'm glad that you won. But then I saw this after. I'm going to pull it up 1 second. That Tyrant Timmy said that he would do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So he just.
Will you appeal the decision?
I don't think so. I'm not aware of an appeal being prepared. It's kind of come and gone. And as we move forward, I, as Premier, will certainly look at circumstances that are in front of me at any given moment in time. And I will always do what is necessary to keep people safe, to keep property safe every single time. We'll make that decision. We'll do that again if necessary.
Doubling down. And I'll do it again if necessary. I said that on the radio the other day.
And it might be.
The local radio station called me up while I was coming out of a physio appointment. And the guy was like, hey, I've been trying to get in touch with you. Would you like to do an interview on 87.9, I think it is here. It's not like I listen to radio. But I was like, yeah, sure. And he says, okay, I'll call you back on the other phone. So he called me back from the phone in the studio, and we did an interview in my truck. And that was kind of what came up. He said, because I pointed out, I was like, well, Tyrant Timmy says he's going to do it again. And he's like, what are you talking about? When did he say that? I said, at the press conference just yesterday. He was asked, he said that he wasn't aware of an appeal being prepared, but that he would do it again. And he said, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to do it again then. Like, it's outrageous. You wouldn't believe what happened in the courtroom. Like, it was a bloodbath. They had no case. They actually made our case for us in their written submissions, in their written arguments. They tried to argue that freedom of movement doesn't mean that we have the freedom to go wherever we please in a free society.
What did they think freedom of movement is? Freedom not to move?
They thought it meant the freedom to like move your residence from one province to another and
come
get
on.
and get a job somewhere else. Yes, they actually made that argument. And obviously the counter argument was actually freedom of movement means liberty of movement. You may go where you please. And that has been the case since the Magna Carta. It's been the case for about 800 years. So that's how far back we've fallen in Nova Scotia.
Is he a pretend conservative? What's his party? He's a pretend conservative.
Yeah, and
What's
Tim
he
Houston,
conserving?
I think pharmaceutical profits, given that he sexually butchers more kids per capita than any other premier
Really?
in
Nova
Canada. Yes,
Scotia?
Nova Scotia does. Per capita, we're the highest.
Nova Scotia, what are you doing? I love Nova Scotia. It's a beautiful province. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Horrible government. Yeah, they do it more than any other province in Canada. They're actually outsourcing to Montreal and sending a bunch of youth there. That's where my daughter went. Now, when I applied to Nova Scotia Health to have them fund the surgery that I needed to correct a spinal injury that was related to my service, a recognized service-related spinal injury, they said no. But when my daughter wanted to chop her healthy breasts off at the age of 22, it was right this way, sir. And, you know, it's purely ideological. And we just had the Minister of Education used the bully pulpit to punch down on the Citizens Alliance of Nova Scotia and absolutely like just denigrate this idea that parents even have rights when it comes to the decision making of their children's rights. He got up there and he said, no, they don't. They absolutely do not. He said that. And what was he talking about? He was talking about an article written by Juno News that I guess the source information came from the Citizens Alliance of Nova Scotia. So they reposted the Juno News on their website. But he was talking about, he was quoting it, and it was government data showing that they were funding genital surgeries for teenagers in Nova Scotia. And you know what he said? He said, they're transphobic. That anybody would have any concerns over the fact that the province of Nova Scotia is using our healthcare dollars to sterilize teenagers with mutilating surgeries. You know, it's child genital mutilation. That anybody would raise a concern about that, he said, is transphobic, like right from the bully pulpit. And that was a conservative.
This is the argument on every topic, every single topic.
Yeah.
When I go out to cover pro-Hamas groups, people who literally say, literally on film, we love Hamas, recorded, published, who call for jihad, who say that they want to destroy every person who disagrees with them, whether in Israel or elsewhere. And they're explicit in putting forth the desire for Sharia. When I shine a light on this, Islamophobia. Yeah. When I complain about the trucking industry being taken over by predominantly, like a third of it, by Punjabis who are bringing in people who've probably never driven a tuk-tuk, let alone a car, let alone a tractor trailer. When I complain about the fact that they're slaughtering Canadians and sometimes dying themselves on the roads, you're racist. Mm-hmm. When I complain about children being medicalized and turned into Frankenstein experiments by the pharmaceutical industry and the kooks that support it, it's transphobia. When I complained about people being locked in their homes and kept from seeing dying relatives and being compelled to cover 2/3 of their face and take an experimental, very flawed pharmaceutical product, I'm not going to call it a vaccine because it wasn't one. When I complain about that, then it's you want to kill grandma. Yeah. These people have no arguments. There's no rational explanation for any of this. It's just all different forms of the same thing, which is an attack on Western civilization. Yep. And destroying our society in so many different ways that people become weary and they no longer even know where to put their energy. That's
Just like Yuri Bezmenov said, in the late stages of ideological subversion, we would be unable to draw sensible conclusions in our own defense. And it is psychological warfare. What you're describing is, well, it's Marxism, and it's Marxist dialectical materialism, which is based on Hegel's dialectic. And what you're experiencing are these Hegelian dialectical attacks. And another one that is quite popular is, if you have any concerns over open border policy, you're xenophobic. So they just hurl these names at you as a means of essentially cudgeling you. It's practically Orwellian, because there's this kind of emotional conditioning that takes place in the process where people start to self-censor. They're like, we can't point these problems out anymore.
It works on most people.
Yeah,
it works on most people. I'm just like, I learned a very long time ago, I think when I was a teenager, basically, I accepted that I am completely willing to be called mean names by bad people. And I just don't care. I really just don't care. I don't know if I'm missing a chip in my brain or something that other people have. I just don't care. That's the way I'm made. I care deeply about what my loved ones think. And I don't care at all what manipulators think at all. And they can exhaust themselves with it. But unfortunately, it works on the average Canadian. And then they shut up.
Yeah. And it is hard not to take it personally too. Like, I know, I spent 20 years, like my whole adult life, serving this country and put my life on the line in places like Afghanistan and Iraq in the name of freedom and Canadian values. And then, for people who go around saying, we stand on guard for thee, and unless we forget, as we will not let that sacrifice go to waste. It's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking to see how easy it was to turn them all against us. At the same time, it's like, you can't take it personally either. Like, there are external forces at play. There's an internal, like an internal coup that's taking place, and there's also a global coup that's taking place. So there are massive, like, social and political forces at play. It's a war, and if you take it personally, then you're just not going to last.
Yeah, I have to say though, it does get it gets debilitating at times. That's why I'm happy that you won your case. Those like small victories give me energy.
Who are you calling small?
No, it's just like it's very important. It's an important victory, but I guess it feels like a drop in the bucket of the problems that we're fighting. But every drop, will fill the bucket eventually.
I think this was, at the same time, I thought it's like, this has got to be a slam dunk. When they were coming down with it, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go defy this ban. Like, it's got to be a slam dunk.
But you never know now. You never know.
I know. I still had so much doubt in the lead up to the trial. I was looking at it like, well, like it's cut and dry to my mind. And we have a public interest case with the Canadian Constitution Foundation. We have a private interest case.
What does that mean?
Oh, so with the judicial review, in light of the charter, you can submit it to the courts either in your private interest or in the public interest. And basically, if it's in the public interest, like, you have to be a civil liberties organization. Because I tried this when the first Woods ban was in 2023. Yeah.
Okay.
And they were like,
so
you're not.
You can't be an individual?
Well, and I tried to stand on my rights as an individual, and they said there was no money involved, so you're not harmed. Get out of here. And I even made the case. I was like, but I'm a veteran, and I've given a lot to this country in the name of these rights. This is a terribly morally injurious practice that you guys are engaged in. They're like, no, hurt feelings are not good enough. And it's like, my rights aren't good enough. Okay, so that's why I did it the way I did this time, because I was like, the judge told me, had I gotten fined, I would have had private interest standing. So I was like, you're not getting away from me this time, you slippery bastards. So
Good for you. You're very persistent.
you
You're
have to.
very determined. I like that.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I want to put something up. It's a bit of a departure from our conversation. Is that okay? It's like with the Humboldt guys.
I'm on open book.
Okay, because it was on Friday, a judge gave kind of Hail Mary to Jaskarat Singh Sidhu, who is the driver, most Canadians would know about this, who had dozens of safety violations leading up to the catastrophic crash. I don't call it an accident because I don't perceive it as being an accident when someone is so negligent. And he didn't even hit the brakes before he went into the intersection. And so 16 young people, one was, I guess, middle-aged, but 15 young people died, and 13 people were catastrophically injured, most of them. Some have recovered a little bit more than others, but an absolute wake of devastation. And he was supposed to be deported today, and he's still here because of this judge. So, God willing, this will end for the families, and he'll be deported at some point. But I wanted to play. I did a thread that a friend of mine, I was talking to you before, Jeff, about this, but a friend of mine said he didn't see it. And I went out of my way to profile each of the 16 who died, and I'm working on the survivors as well, a thread for them. But I did them individually so that we would see them, not just as numbers, right? And he didn't see any of it, and I reposted each one individually. So like I have a big account, and it's making me wonder if someone is not seeing it who like has notifications on when I'm putting out, 20 tweets in one day about this one topic. So I thought I'd bring up so I'm on TikTok, and with TikTok, let me see if this works. Okay. So I'm just going to bring this up, and I'll just play a couple of them. So I did for each of them a little tribute video. So I won't play them all, but just to give people an idea if they wanted to go over. I don't understand TikTok because I've only gotten onto it more recently. Like some of the videos have 10,000 views, and then some have 100. So if you could go over and give some love to each of them, I'd appreciate it. But I'll play a couple of them.
I get a shot at the big game. Here on the claim, say my name. So I played hard and dreamed about the day I'd lift the Stanley Cup up high, 'cause that's where I come from. That's who I am. Hard working and God blessed. Yes, sir, and thank you, man. The best things around that I have ever seen came from small towns and big dreams.
So that was Jackson was his name, the young man. And this was the captain, I believe.
And get laid in the ground. And if you're gonna jump, it'll be with a game. Real fast and tough is the only clear lane to the big league. My boy's gonna play in the big league.
It's tough. And here's another.
I know the gravel road will always lead me home, somewhere that you didn't stop, points me to where you are. I know the gravel road will always lead me home, somewhere that you didn't stop, points me to where you are. Red dirt, white church, blue collars, running through my veins. I was born small town deep.
It's just it's tough. This was a athletic therapist, and her sister commented. So people are seeing them, which is good, but it's so sad.
I breathe in, I breathe out. Got friends to call who let me talk about what ain't working, what's still hurting.
So yeah, if people could go and read their stories, I would appreciate it.
The sister was commenting on that last one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be, happy to talk to any of the families if they want to. I haven't reached out because I don't know like how much I will amplify any of the families or loved ones' voices in a heartbeat, but I don't know how much they want to take up that mantle. Like it's devastating, and then it's just this endless bullshit, excuse my language, with this situation with the driver that should never have happened, where it's just appeal after appeal. And I'm not a family member, but I would imagine this is re-traumatizing to have this coming up in the news constantly. And now people writing these syrupy stories about him as though he's the victim in this. And a lot of people, and maybe some of the families themselves might not have known initially, a lot of people don't understand that this is a systemic problem and he's a symptom of a problem that we need to fix, which is a lot of corruption in the trucking industry. And it kind of parallels what's going on with the corporate, like the prioritization of corporate welfare towards, places like Tim Hortons to bring in foreign workers when there are Canadians who can do the jobs. The same thing is happening in trucking, but instead of getting a bad meal and like a fly in your sandwich, you're getting a team full of hockey players massacred on the road. And you're getting moms like, there's a case that was in court, I think like 2 weeks ago, of a mom in Quebec and an 11-year-old that I profiled. And it's just endless. There are certain areas where it's much worse, where there's a lot more trucking traffic, and people are afraid to speak out about it because they don't want to be called a bigot. But they need to understand that we're dealing with, like, I had a conversation with a topic specialist on this. I'm going to edit it and put it up. But we're dealing with companies that sometimes are not even located in Canada, that are basically human trafficking impoverished, rural individuals who usually are illiterate to come here and drive trucks. They might never have even driven a bicycle, and they're put behind a tractor trailer. And so it fills me with a righteous fury to see that people who've lost their children now have to see these pieces coming out, and they see MPs writing, like it was John Manley and somebody else writing like, oh, he deserves, he's served his time. He served 4 years. He served 4 effing years. 4 years. 16 dead people. Lots of the young people filled with promise, not just hockey players. They're multi-talented, as many like high-performing athletes are, pillars of their community, volunteering. One of them was like the statistics guy. He'd gone to the Special Olympics. He was like a high-functioning young person with Asperger's, and he was volunteering in like 3 or 4 different organizations in his town. Like, it's just, anyway, I don't want to rant, but I just want people to understand that we're going to have more victims if people put this like toxic empathy into supporting the corruption, which is facilitating these accidents. Like, we all understand accidents, but these are it's people you're putting behind the wheels that sometimes have their feet up on the dash, and they're looking at literally games. One was looking at a game on his phone. He was playing a strategy game online. He didn't even hit the brakes before he killed a mom and her 11-year-old. He wasn't even aware there were all these signs saying construction was coming up. They didn't stand a chance.
Wow. Yeah. And, I think it's more than just, you talk about how you need to be unafraid of being called names. That's true. But I also fire back quite a bit. I mean, you follow me on X, so you know what I mean. And I think we need to engage in some name calling ourselves. Like they're going to accuse us of being racist. And I don't know, what do you accuse somebody of being when they promote? I'd be like, yeah, you love dead kids or something like that.
Carnage promoters. They're carnage. And they're not, the thing is, like, in supporting that, they're also supporting the human trafficking of uneducated rural people who sometimes are paying like $30,000 and they're being sold a lie that they're going to come and it's going to be like the US and they're going to have 3 cars and it's easy to drive a truck. And then these people are driving through the freaking Rockies. They don't even know how to put chains on. They've never seen snow in their lives. They've never even driven a stick shift.
Wow.
Like there's no training that's going to compensate for that. They oftentimes have 2 logbooks because they'll just lie. And they're working for Indian-run companies that have dispatchers in India. They're dispatching people from another continent. Like the whole thing, I have a hard time speaking about it calmly because it's so mind-boggling and outrageous. And there's nobody standing up in Parliament just all day long, just trying to hammer this point down. And they won't explain to people what's going on. There was one MPP, I think, who spoke out and then people called him racist and then he fled like a coward. I'm sorry, but people need advocates. The victims need advocates who aren't afraid to stand up to these people who are pathologically evil and who are just making money. And they know by calling you a racist, it'll stop you from interfering in their evil scheme.
They're sociopaths. They're
sociopaths.
Yes, we should call them that. And people call me transphobic, and I call them child butchers. I'm just like, yeah, you're pro child butchery.
You're a child protector.
Yeah. And it's just, I think similar language could be adopted here. You're pro slavery. This is we've already been called out.
Servitude. You're pro indentured servitude.
Well,
you're pro child massacre on the road.
I think not that the UN is in any position to tell us how to live, but I'm pretty sure that they published a report there not too long ago. And lefties care what the UN thinks, and they're calling us out for modern slavery, especially because
for the temporary foreign workers, or
the TFW program. They're like, it's leading to a form of modern slavery, especially when it comes to like what's going on in the farms and a couple of other key areas like that. But when you start raising issues around the immigrant population, the overwhelming immigrant population that's been imported in the last several years, and people start calling you racist, I'd just be like, you're pro-slavery. You think it's okay to enslave these brown people just because they're brown? What are you, racist? Just take their own tactics and throw them back at them. I'll plug my Mayday event one more time, because we have a very, you know what our strength is with Mayday? It's diversity. Diversity is our strength, because we've got everybody from the straight white cis heteropatriarch to the the trans man to the detransitioned lesbian, and diversity is going to be our strength. And I'm adopting their language and saying, those with lived experience of the harms of gender ideology. So
do they call them transphobic too?
They can call us whatever. Call.
No, but I'm curious. Like, do they call like detransitioners transphobic too, or is it just?
They treat detransitioners worse than anybody. They're the apostates of the of the gender cult. I'm not sure if they call them transphobic or not.
I'd be curious. It's a very hard sell even for the communists.
But that's okay. Go ahead and call us transphobes while I'm standing there with a trans man, because every time you guys jump the shark, every time you open your mouths like that, more people seeing how ridiculous you really are going to wake up. So you can call the trans man the transphobic if you want. I want you to, because people who are watching are going to say, there's something going on here. There's something really wrong with these people, and take a closer look.
Are any MPs going to meet with you?
I didn't invite any. I
Okay.
did submit. I didn't want to politicize it in any way, shape, or form. I resigned from the People's Party several weeks ago for that reason as well. And also, like, the party is just, it's lost, and I don't want that neo-Nazi stink all over me. I gave it my best effort to try to highlight the issues and actually push back on them.
It's been very frustrating to watch a party that has, like, where the domestic policies are the best of any platforms, but the foreign policies, in my opinion, are not strong. And there's a contingent of just deranged people that are terrible ambassadors for the party.
Yeah.
And some of them, run as MPs for the party. So
yeah, like Alex Cargill is basically the popular face of the PPC. And he tried to run me out of the party in early 2025, and I destroyed him in a debate. And, Max made him a candidate after that. So it's like he's being rewarded for his abusive degeneracy. He called me, said I had dual loyalties with Israel. It's just ridiculous. They're so, like, the Jew derangement syndrome is not only real, but I think that PPC has like a problem with mass formation Jew derangement syndrome at this point. And like I had lots of supporters in the PPC as well, but
that's pretty much, I'd say, every party now except the CPC, maybe.
Yeah, but that is the consequence of, I think, them being on the left. And I've been going around saying that the PPC is a right-wing party because when I read the platform, I'm like, that's a right-wing platform. But then I see all these lefties running around that have imported all the collectivism, the totalitarianism, the identitarianism, even the Marxism, even though they don't realize it, they're Marxist. And, because it's just another Marxist paradigm where the bourgeoisie are the Jews and the proletariat is the white man. I
had I covered this last weekend. I covered an Iranian, sorry to cut you off, but it just made me think of this, an Iranian anti-Islamic regime demonstration. So these are people that are very right-wing, okay? They're very conservative, traditional Canadian patriots, but they have family members back in Iran who are fighting against the regime. They have loved ones who have been murdered. Some of the women that have been murdered by the regime get basically sexually tortured to death.
Yep.
It's terrible. And so they have been having a demonstration, and they asked me if I would go to cover it. And so I did. I'll put up a video when I can, as soon as I can. And there were people that were complaining, they should all go back to Iran, this and that on the post. And I said, you don't understand, like, these people are pro-Canada.
Yeah.
They're anti-Islamic regime. They are the first people to go out in the streets and counter, literally the first people I've seen before Quebecers was an Iranian activist who went out to counter the pro-Hamas people when she saw what was happening. Okay. They are fierce traditionalists, like they're perfect to ally yourself with. And people were, they should all go back, this and that. Like, they don't understand that throughout the world, there's various forms of tyranny. And when we had the Freedom Convoy, I couldn't understand why people weren't standing up for us. And then I saw, Christine Anderson gave a speech. There were different European parliamentarians who gave speeches. I thought, thank goodness, this is getting bigger than us. They're shining a light on us. They're helping us, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Trump came out and supported the truckers as well, and various different politicians. And activists, and I don't understand how people don't get at this point that the tyranny is not just limited to Canada, and it needs to be like, I care predominantly about Canadian issues. I live here.
Yeah.
But I'm able to also care about tyranny in other countries at the same time. It doesn't mean that I necessarily want Canadian resources devoted to that, but I believe in Western civilization, right? Like that's what I believe is being taken from me, our Canadian flavor, our version of Western civilization, and all these attacks, all these topics we talked about today. It's all the same thing. It's all an attack on Western civilization. And when you have people who are in Canada who want Western civilization as well, why are you spitting on them and alienating them? I don't get it. Like, even if you, like, strategically, it makes no sense.
Well, they make no sense. They don't get it, because free people can either stand together or fall to tyranny.
Yes.
That's always been the way. It's been a bloody uphill slog from the ancestral environment to where we are right now, against our own tyranny. We're naturally tyrannical. It
That's
takes
what
a lot
Magna
of...
Carta was, which you mentioned earlier.
Yes. That is the history of Western civilization too, is the one that leads the way to a brighter future. And we're always struggling with this kind of self-emancipation, this, we're always kind of struggling with the totalitarian impulse, and we're always kind of saying, it's just, it's so infuriating to be going through this right now, where there's all this stuff about historical injustices. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to remedy historical abuses of power in Western civilization by abusing your power in the here and now. That's what you're going to do. You're going to discriminate against white people, like the historical injustices thing. So you're going to abuse your power in the here and now to remedy these historical abuses of power. Look, free people can either stand together or fall to tyranny. I just want to reiterate that we need allies. We need allies in the Muslim world. We need allies in the Middle East. We need allies.
Take what it is. I'll take the 10%.
Yes, it is like that with Islam. I think even some of the really good moderates out there would agree that sort of the problem that we have with Islam right now is it is what we would consider to be an extremist ideology by default.
Yeah, it
is. It is the reformers.
Hasn't had a reformation. Yeah.
No, and the reformers are the radicals within Islam. Yeah. So we're allied with the radicals, really, the people who want to reform the faith and advance a more peaceful message. So, but it is what it is. Like, this is just the hand that we were dealt for our moment in history. And, the aim here is to play a good hand. Like, we need to hold the ground that's been won for us by our ancestors and hopefully move the ball forward. Obviously, the ball's moved back a little bit we've lost a few yards in the last several years, but
this 10 years has been a real ringer.
Yeah.
I have some comments for you.
Got about 4 more to go.
Look into Dragonfly. I don't know what that is. Who ships for Amazon? Oh, and the fact that Melanie Jolie's brother owns it and it uses them. I will look into that. I don't know about that. I will look into that. Thank you.
Who ships it?
I guess they're subcontractors, what I'm understanding, for Amazon.
Yeah, Dragonfly. I know who they are, but they're shady.
Well, he said the fact that Melanie Jolie's brother owns Dragonfly, so I don't know what like if he's the owner, if he's CEO or whatever, and it uses almost exclusively foreign workers, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then Robin said, when you can't count on the Bloc Québécois to stand up for Quebec, we're for schnizzled. Robin, I have to say, there's a lot going on in Quebec right now, actually, with I think the sovereigntists look like they're going to get for sure a minority, but they might win a majority government. And oddly enough, the leader, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, was like a right-wing sovereigntist. But the press is trying to undermine him by calling him like Trumpist, and also like he's like Poilievre, but he's actually been speaking out about the Muslim Brotherhood and things like this. And so that's kind of interesting. And then Johnny wrote Horseshoe Theory, Far Right and Left Intersect. That's what you were talking about a bit, Jeff, I guess, with the PPC.
No, the horseshoe theory, I don't buy it. I think that's kind of a ruse. The horseshoe theory, just for anybody who doesn't know, they say like once you get out to the political extremes, the spectrum itself bends like a horseshoe, so that the political extremes kind of meet around the tyrannical. I don't know. So
I just always find that they're more leftist because I know PPC, like some people got involved in the PPC because they did come from the left and they were upset during the COVID regime, but they were really only like liberty oriented with that one topic.
Yeah.
And on everything else, they're left wing.
Yeah.
So that's what I saw happening, but that could be wrong.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people were left politically homeless during COVID. And so they're finding the PPC, the only party that was against the mandates. And they're dragging their Marxist baggage with them. But for the political spectrum, first of all, a spectrum, it follows the x-axis on a Cartesian graph, which is a straight line. It doesn't bend because it is straight. So any line that bends is not a spectrum.
It's because people use the French. It dates back to the time of the French Revolution. This right. The right side and the left side, and the right side was the monarchists, the traditionalists, and the left side were the revolutionaries. And people still use that framework a lot, I think, in their minds. But I don't find it useful myself because I don't know how it was that the National Socialists ended up being classified as right of center when they're everything about them, aside from nationalism, every other aspect of them, the collectivism, everything is left when you look at it definitionally. So it's always frustrated me. I made this argument even in school, in poli-sci studies. Sorry,
I do know. Yeah, it's okay. I do know how that happened, actually. It was progressives in academia in the late 50s, early 60s started to realize just how close their own progressivism was with Nazism. And so they flipped the paradigm and started saying that they were right-wing. The Nazis actually relied on Jim Crow segregationist South policies to form the basis that eventually led to form the basis of their policies that eventually led to the final solution. And it was they thought that the lefties in the United States were too extreme for them because they had the one drop of blood rule, which is if you had a drop of black blood in you, that meant that you were black. But in Nazi Germany, they said, well, if you have three grandparents who were Jewish, then you're Jewish. So they weren't even as extreme as American progressives. And this is all documented. They kept meeting minutes and stuff like that. Dinesh D'Souza wrote a great book called The Big Lie, where he debunks a lot of this stuff. He goes right through all the meeting minutes and everything to show that they are progressives, they are left wing, and it's like you said, they're collectivists, they're identitarian, they're totalitarian, and fundamentally Marxist as well. They would. I think I read something once where Hitler actually referred to himself as the executor of the executor of Marxism. It's just that he stripped all the Talmudic Judaism out of it and implemented its purest form. So they're absolutely on the left. Yes, Nazis are left wing.
An atheist just saying, I know you're one, but
yeah, I am.
Gotta watch out for the atheist vegetarians.
We got to teach philosophy in schools.
You can have one or both. If not, I'm watching you. You're not a vegetarian, are you?
Oh God, no! I'm a meatitarian.
No. Okay. Melissa McKee, I have to. We have a hard set time in 3 minutes, but I try to get through the comments. Melissa McKee wrote, "Islam is not a religion; it's a jihadist death cult." I am inclined to say that Islam is an ideology, and some of the practitioners are religious, but at its basis, I think it's an overarching. It's far more legalistic than any other faith.
Political.
Yeah. But I do know, I do have friends who are very liberty minded, just not many, but who are Muslims, and they they understand that you have to be anti-mullah and you also have to be anti, Muslim socialists. Those are kind of the two camps right now in the Middle East. And so it's tough. It flips between one or the other, the Islamic nationalists with the Ummas or the mullahs. And like in Syria, they traded one set of bad people with another set of bad people. And it's hard. It's tough.
And there's a dude you should look up called Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who is the Grand Mufti in Jerusalem in the lead up during the Second World War, probably first suggested. Yeah, he's a Nazi.
Yeah.
And that is where Islam and Nazism actually intersect. And he had a lot to do with
they trained people and sent them to fight for the Nazis, like through what country? I don't know, through the Ottoman Empire, right? Or
yeah, it was Ottoman would have collapsed. First World War, but
whatever was left in the wake. I'm trying. Like, I don't think it was Turks who went, but it was. They trained a contingent of Muslim Nazis to go and support the Nazi war effort.
They absolutely did. Yeah. And the Jews fought on the side of the Allies, and then they all went back and lived in the same region together. So I think that goes a long way to explaining what it is that we see in the Middle East right now. Although that has been going on since the lifetime of Muhammad. He did
1,400 years of conquest.
Yeah,
going all the way up to Tours in France and the gates of Vienna and throughout the Iberian Peninsula, all the way over into Asia. Egypt used to be Christian, all across North Africa. Now it's into sub-Saharan Africa. So maybe Jews are not the problem. Just throwing that out there.
Islam has bloody borders. I'm not the first one to say it. And it was Christopher Hitchens who I think speculated that the Battle of Vienna, where they finally stopped the Muslim advance into West Europe, that it ended on 9/11. And you know what else happened on 9/11, right? Benghazi.
Sorry?
Benghazi.
I don't know what you mean.
Benghazi, the terrorist attack that left, I think it was 13 Marines dead. They took over the American embassy in Benghazi, and Hillary Clinton was asleep at the switch the whole time.
Yeah.
They played it off as a protest. They tried to say that it was a protest when it was absolutely a terrorist attack. It was an act of jihad.
Oh yeah, it was a terrorist attack. But I'm not sure of the relation with 9/11. We have one more minute.
It took place on 9/11. Benghazi.
Oh, it happened on 9/11?
Yeah.
I don't know why I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
Or on what year was it though? Like 4 years later, 5 years later?
The Benghazi, it was somewhere around.
Lost all sense of time.
She was Secretary of State, so it would have been like pre-2014.
Yeah.
Around there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always the dates. Anyway, I have to run. Melissa, I'm not ignoring you, but I have a hard deadline. So I'll look at the comments after because they'll stay up. But thank you for joining me. Let's throw this up one more time so people will go to support you. So just one last plug.
Yes, please. So Mayday, 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 Kids in Crisis. We're going to Ottawa 5 May 2026 to end childhood transition in Canada. We have a 10:30 press conference, 1 p.m. rally on the Hill, 6 p.m. Town hall with a panel of speakers comprised of experts and those with lived experience of the harms of gender ideology. That's going down at Bikers Church in Vanier. We're announcing the venue right now, which we have kept secret up to this point. But we have a really great lineup of speakers. Scott Nugent, Mia Hughes, yours truly, Barry Neufeld, Kelly Lynn Pyrie, the Faith Grolu, and Chris Fleury, who's representing Cosbar, and Ann Gillies, Dr. Ann Gillies, author of The Ultimate Deception. So we'll be there. Sorry.
Guys, one last question. Are you streaming it too? Can people buy e-tickets or no?
We didn't set up any e-tickets. People were asking about the streaming, and really we just we decided that, you know, if we live stream for free, that wouldn't be fair to the people buying tickets. But we do have their
charge, but I guess it's complicated. I don't know about that.
it might have been a little too complicated for our tiny volunteer team with everything we've accomplished so far. But we have Rare Foundation coming in to make a documentary of
Oh,
the day.
that's true. Sorry, you mentioned that already. Okay.
Yeah. So that'll be released at a later date.
I hope your event goes really well. I would be there if I could be there, and keep fighting the good fight. Jeff, you're one of the people that takes on you take on a lot more than what one person usually takes on. And so I really appreciate that,
Yeah, my pleasure. And I think I'll take a nice summer break after this.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, but
Fair enough.
and
Okay.
everybody follow Jeff if you don't already, and share. And let's get the message out. It is next Monday?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay. So you'll let me know how it goes.
All right. Sounds great.
Okay. Bye, Chef.
Thank you, Natasha.
Sorry, people. I'm trying to end it.